Hello, you've tuned in to the Recap Cam. Today I'll be sharing the story of the movie Blue Lagoon. Drop a like right now, and let's dive in. The tale begins in the 1890s, aboard a sailing ship heading for San Francisco. Here, we meet the main character. 7-year-old Emmeline plays at the bow with 9-year-old Richard. Stern Uncle Arthur quickly scolds them. The ocean is not a place for games. He reminds her of her parents' recent death. While the cook Patty Button works, Richard discovers nude photos of women inside his cabin. Patty catches him and punishes the two children. Suddenly, a loud shout comes from the deck. The captain commands an evacuation and shoves Uncle Arthur into a lifeboat. Patty rushes the children on deck and puts them into the nearest lifeboat. Amid the chaos, they end up losing Uncle Arthur. Dense smoke from the burning vessel conceals their boat as it drifts into the sea. The morning after the wreck, Patty Button wakes to a trunk smashing against their boat. He searches through the bags and grabs the jewelry, yet they have nearly no food or water. Soon afterward, the sun begins to set. Day by day, the survivors drift beneath the blazing sun, losing all hope of rescue. Emmeline, parched with thirst, hallucinates and thinks she sees land. But Patty too spots a lush green island far on the horizon. The old sea wolf raises the sail and soon enough they reach the shore. The island seems to be completely uninhabited. Patty hears water flowing and moves inland. Soon they discover a beautiful flowing waterfall. Now they gain fresh water and bananas grow all around. Emmeline even discovers a barrel filled with rum. Inside a cave, Richard comes across a skull. These are the bones of a pirate who couldn't flee from the island. They must escape before they endure that same fate. While Patty keeps watch for ships, Emmeline spots tempting scarlet berries and tastes one. The sailor harshly pulls the berry straight from her mouth. In the evening, the survivors gather near the campfire while the children ask the old sailor about life. Patty had 7 wives and 17 children across every port, stretching from Callao to Macau. Here on this island, Mr. Button at last becomes a good father, teaching the children everything he knows. He trains them to swim, shows Richard fishing and knot tying, and explains ways to signal passing ships. Together, they construct a tropical hut. Patty's single flaw is his heavy fondness for rum. One day, the old man comes upon something dreadful in the jungle. Thus arises the island's first and only law: never venture into that part of the island. That's the place where the boogeyman lives. The children discover ways to have fun even while on a deserted island. In the evenings, they view humorous pictures of weddings and social customs, while the tipsy Mr. Specian Button amuses them with his lively dancing. Yes, he keeps dancing until he finally drops. At dawn, the rum has vanished, and Mr. Button drifts out to sea on a barrel, hunting for the nearest liquor store. The children awaken completely alone. Through the spyglass, they see Patty asleep on rocks and row toward him in the boat. But why won't he wake up? It appears that Mr. Button has died. The children are left all alone on the empty island. That evening, Emily sobs loudly and pleads with Richard to take her away. They collect their few belongings and depart by boat as a pod of graceful dolphins accompanies them. Beyond the coral reef, the children find a stunning beach within a bright blue lagoon. Perhaps they will remain on the island for another week. Fish are plentiful and fresh fruit can be found everywhere. Here, the children swim with turtles and live as if in paradise. Many years pass. Richard and Emily have fully grown up. Together, they built a warm hut, just as Patty once taught them. Richard has grown into a true provider, and Emily into a real beauty. Richard dives down to the ocean floor to find her a pearl, offering it to her for Christmas. Emily adores the gift. In gratitude, she gives the boy a passionate kiss. Lately, she's been having odd thoughts about Richard that she's far too shy to mention. One day, Emily chooses to bathe inside the lake. In the water, she spots red blood on her fingers. She calls Richard for help, but soon realizes what's happening and shamefully sends him away. Richard fears she's injured and tries to examine the wound, but Emily quickly stops him. She secretly admires Richard's muscles, while he thinks her behavior rather strange. What is happening with Emily? Despite their little secrets, they remain the very closest people to one another. Suddenly, a noise arises from the forbidden part of the island. Could it truly be the monster? But worst of all are the shrill sounds Richard makes while playing his homemade flute. It annoys Emily far too much. They chase one another all around their 2-story hut. Richard grabs her on the ocean shore and presses her down into the sand. Finally, Emily enjoys her romantic moment, but Richard views it merely as a childish game. In the evening, Emily bathes in water, shining brightly with plankton. She appears magical. This captures the boy's attention, and he quickly joins her. Later, drum beats echo loudly from deep inside the island. Emily follows the sound, but soon is blocked by a cliff. To go further, she breaks Patty's strict law and enters the forbidden part of the island. There, she sees a massive stone like an altar for sacrifices, with blood spilling from it. Terrified, Emily runs away. Returning home, she speaks of seeing the stone monster. The girl believes it's a god, since the stone appeared to be bleeding. Emily suggests praying to it, but Richard grows angry she had broken the rule. In her dream, Emily envisions the stone god warning her about Richard's imminent death. Waking up, she feels happy to see him lying beside her. Forgetting herself, Emily leans in and kisses him. However, Emily swiftly pulls herself away. Now Richard just cannot stop thinking about her. He watches the girl sleeping, gently caresses her, and breathes in the scent of her hair. But Emily wakes and refuses his advances. In the morning, Richard feels offended. Later, while collecting coconuts, he spots a ship on the horizon. Richard rushes to the beach to light a signal fire. Emily merely watches as the vessel slowly sails away. But why wouldn't she light the fire? Knowing how Richard longs to leave the island, this infuriates him. He decides he will escape on his own. Emily quietly watches as he builds a raft and sets off toward the sea. But the fragile raft collapses completely with the very first wave. This entertains the girl. It's already become his fourth failed attempt. Emily has accepted they will never escape. The Blue Lagoon will remain their home forever. In response, Richard teases her feminine figure and mocks Emily, and rightfully receives a coconut to the head, but a slap in return that is simply too much. Returning home, Emily finds the upset Richard tossing her things outside their hut. So the brave young girl builds her own cozy little nest. But the first heavy rain catches her unprepared. Her failure only amuses Richard. While he's laughing, Emily carries offerings to the island's god. On her way back along the ocean shore, she mistakenly steps onto a poisonous stonefish. Richard realizes the girl is in trouble. Emily's fever rises. Richard fears losing her and keeps her awake, though Emily pleads with the god to take her. For her sake, Richard defies the single law. He carries the weakened girl into the forbidden part of the island and sets her upon the altar. The boy pleads with the god to spare Emily's life. He spends many hours caring for her as though she were his closest person. Soon, Emily recovers fully. Richard had been so afraid of losing her. Now he brings Emma her food. Looking around, the boy realizes someone often performs rituals here, perhaps a person from a nearby island. Now Richard assists Emma with everything, and she heals quickly. They swim once more in the ocean and enjoy life. While eating papaya, Richard suggests a kiss. How could she resist? Emma leans in and kisses him. Then Richard drips papaya juice on her lips and kisses her right back. They feel a strange sensation in their stomachs, and their hearts begin to beat faster. Could this truly be love? They have finally realized their feelings. They simply adore each other and long to hug, kiss, and spend time together. Now the couple lives together as if in paradise. They bathe together, spend evenings together, and simply act like a couple. According to their modest knowledge of society, it seems time for them to marry. Emily dresses as a bride, and together they dance their very first wedding dance. Richard has learned how to ride dolphins. Perhaps this way he might escape the island. Emily isn't bored in marriage and keeps her husband amused, but she began eating far too many coconuts. Will you quit eating or ending up fat? The girl feels ill during the mornings. Richard cannot grasp what is happening to her. So the girl tells him to touch her belly and feel movement inside. One day, Richard again hears tribal drums and goes to investigate. Suddenly, he observes a group of islanders dancing around the fire. At the ritual's end, they perform a sacrifice and kill someone. Returning to the lagoon, the boy hears Emily screaming loudly. Have the islanders taken her captive? But it turns out the girl is enduring severe labor pain. The cry echoes across the island. Then comes the wail of a newborn. Congratulations, Daddy dear. Richard cannot understand where Emily obtained the baby. The little one keeps crying endlessly. Seems that he's very hungry. But what should they feed him? Emily gives him fruit, but it doesn't help. To soothe the crying, she holds the child in her arms, and the baby instantly finds what he needs. Now Emily lovingly cares for the baby and feeds him. Richard fashions spears ready for defense. He admits he saw savages at the altar, and if natives come for them, Richard vows to defend the family. In the morning, Richard sails by boat to where Patty died. He finds whitening bones along the shore and realizes he's mortal too, like his fragile baby. Later, Emily teaches the little child how to swim. The boy grows stronger and hardens. They named the baby Patty, and his first word spoken was "my name." The young family lives happily on the island until one day they're noticed by a passing schooner. Sailors call the captain to glance at the filthy islanders. Peering through the spyglass, the man spots a couple with a child and decides to look closer. Emily and Richard share brief glances. Have they finally been waiting for rescue? But they choose to quickly hide within their calm blue lagoon. Old Uncle Arthur fails to recognize them beneath the dirt, and the ship sails away. The family returns again to their joyful life. One day, Emma decides to revisit the old beach and visit Patty's grave. The entire family gathers at the shore beside the ruined hut. The girl sorrowfully visits her old departed friend. Meanwhile, little Patty becomes drawn to the scarlet sleeping berries. Richard goes to collect bananas, and Emma, lost in memories, doesn't notice the boat drifting away from shore. She only realizes after the child tosses the oar into the water. Richard hears her cries and hurries to give help. He quickly swims toward the oar, but Emily spots something in the water. A shark is swimming toward Richard. The girl hurls the oar toward the predator. This lets Richard climb safely into the boat. But how could they possibly reach the shore now? The shark keeps swimming around the boat. Richard attempts to paddle with his hands, yet the boat drifts farther away from shore. Soon, the island vanishes completely from sight. At sunset, Richard points out the enormous sun to his son. They spend the night lying inside the bottom of the boat, and in the morning, the parents remain asleep. Little Patty samples the dangerous sleeping berries. Emma wakes instantly, but the child has already consumed a whole handful. Soon, Patty becomes sick and begins crying. Emma refuses to let him fall asleep, and Richard realizes their once happy life is forever gone. He has already prepared a handful of sleeping berries and split them into 2 piles. The lovers quietly swallow them with tears in their eyes, still embracing. They rest upon the bottom of the boat. At that moment, a ship emerges upon the horizon. The lookout spots 3 people in a boat and informs old Arthur. The ship quickly alters its course. A rescue crew quickly sets out to help. Coming nearer, the rescuers behold the lifeless young couple and child. In truth, they are only sleeping, and now everything will turn out fine for them. And surely that deserves a like. Thank you kindly.